Hey, welcome to The Explainer. We're all about taking complex history and turning it into a story that's easy to follow.
So, was the Tiger tank really the unstoppable beast everyone thought it was? Today, we're going to dig into that legend. We're talking about Germany's Panzer 6, the Tiger, and we're going to see if its fearsome reputation really matches up with what happened on the ground. And our focus? Right where the Western Allies first ran into it, the deserts of North Africa.
All right, so let's set the scene. It's late 1942, we're in Tunisia, the Allies have just hit the beaches, and Germany is scrambling to send in reinforcements. And tucked away with those reinforcements is something new, something big, a 56-ton monster that's about to send an absolute shockwave through the Allied ranks. You know, to really get why the Tiger was such a shock, you gotta look at what the Allies were facing up until this point. The Panzer III, the Panzer IV, yeah, they were tough, but the Allies had figured them out. They had ways to deal with them. But the Tiger? Whoa. This thing wasn't just another upgrade. We're talking a quantum leap forward in both its gun and its armor. Just look at that number, 100 millimeters. We're talking solid steel plate right on the front. Now, to put that into perspective, the tanks they were used to fighting had, maybe 15, 20 millimeters of armor? This was a whole different level. It meant that pretty much any Allied tank gun at the time was useless against it from the front. Shells would hit it and poof, just bounce right off. Literally. So what you end up with is a weapon that's just as terrifying psychologically as it is physically. I mean, the mere rumor that a Tiger was in the area could cause absolute panic. It could completely disrupt Allied formations, even if the tank wasn't even there. That's how powerful the legend became, and fast. Okay, so it was a monster on the outside. But what about the inside? What was it actually like for the 5 guys who had to make this iron beast work? Well, let me tell you, it was anything but a comfortable ride. So you've got a 5-man crew packed in there, and every single one of them has a job that's absolutely critical. You have the commander trying to make split-second tactical calls. You've got the loader who's literally wrestling these huge, heavy 88mm shells into the gun. And all of them, their lives completely depend on working together perfectly inside this incredibly cramped metal box. So yeah, on the outside, it's a fortress. But on the inside, it was a nightmare. Just try to imagine it. You're in the middle of the desert, so it's already blazing hot. Now you're inside a metal box, which is basically an oven. You've got the engine roaring so loud you can't hear yourself think, the massive boom of the main gun going off right next to you, and the whole place is filling up with hot gas and fumes. The only way you can even talk to the guy next to you is through a headset. It was an absolute pressure cooker in there. But here's the thing. A single tank, even one as powerful as the Tiger, doesn't win a battle all by itself. And that was especially true in North Africa. See, the desert had its own set of rules, its own brutal way of fighting. What the desert campaign really turned into was a brutal war of attrition. Forget what you see in the movies with glorious charges and one-on-one tank duels. This was not that. This was a slow, grinding fight. It was all about logistics, about wearing the other side down, bit by painstaking bit. And in a war like this, winning wasn't just about knocking out the other guy's tanks. The real prize was controlling the battlefield after the shooting stopped. Why? Because if you held the ground, you could go out, grab your damaged tanks, and haul them back for repairs. A knocked-out tank wasn't necessarily a dead tank, but if the other side held the ground, your tank was gone for good. So the real victory was denying your enemy the chance to recover their losses. And the German commander, the famous Erwin Rommel, he was an absolute master of this kind of warfare. He came up with this brilliant, deadly tactic. He'd use his lighter tanks, the older Panzers, almost like bait. They'd go out, pick a fight with the Allied tanks, and then pretend to run away. The Allies would chase them, thinking they had them on the run, and they'd run straight into a trap, a hidden line of those incredibly powerful 88mm anti-tank guns just waiting for them. So this brings up a huge question, right? How on earth do you fight something like the Tiger, a tank that's technologically way ahead of yours, and it's being used in these really clever tactical traps? Well, the Allies realized pretty quickly they couldn't outmuscle it, so they had to find another way. They had to outthink it and, crucially, outproduce it. And really, this whole situation boils down to 2 completely different philosophies of war. On one side, you have Germany, obsessed with technical perfection. They're trying to build the ultimate unbeatable weapon. And on the other side, you have the Allies, especially the Americans, who just decided to lean into their massive industrial might. Their plan? Just build so many good enough tanks that the Germans couldn't possibly keep up. And when you look at the numbers, they're just staggering. I mean, even before the Tiger really showed up in force, the Allies already had almost a 5-to-1 advantage in tanks. Think about that. They could afford to lose 4 tanks for every 1 German tank they took out and still come out ahead. The Germans just couldn't play that game. That, right there, is the brutal math of a war of attrition. Now, the main Allied tank, the American M4 Sherman, was, let's be honest, not a perfect machine. It had some serious flaws. It had this nasty habit of bursting into flames when it was hit, because of where they stored the ammunition. The Germans even had a grim nickname for it, the Tommy Cooker. But, and this is the crucial part, for every single Tiger the Germans could build, the Allies could churn out dozens and dozens of Shermans. And in the end, that was what really mattered. Okay, so all of this is building to a central point, the Tiger's own Achilles heel. Because for all of its incredible power, for all the fear it inspired, the legend of this tank was built on a surprisingly fragile foundation. And here's the great irony. The Tiger's biggest strengths were also, in a way, its biggest weaknesses. That incredible weight, that powerful engine, all that complex technology, it made it a nightmare to maintain. First off, there were just never enough of them. They were always breaking down, and if one of them got stuck in the mud or broke down in the wrong place, oh man, recovering that 56-ton beast was a logistical catastrophe. You literally needed 3 of the biggest recovery vehicles the Germans had, all chained together just to tow one of them. And the whole myth, this idea of the invincible Tiger, really starts to unravel at one specific moment. It all comes down to one tank, one day, and one unbelievably lucky shot that would completely change the game. So picture this. It's April 21st, 1943, near a place called Medjez El Bab in Tunisia. A British Churchill tank, which has a way smaller, less powerful gun, takes a shot at this Tiger. Now, the shell does exactly what you'd expect. It fails to penetrate that thick armor. But then, something incredible happens. The shell ricochets, it bounces downwards off the front plate, hits the hull roof, and then wedges itself perfectly in the gap where the turret rotates. Just like that, the turret is jammed solid. The Tiger's massive 88mm gun is completely useless. So now their main gun is out of action. Another shot hits the turret and wounds the commander. And what does the crew of this invincible tank do? They bail out. They just abandoned it. They left their supposedly unstoppable fortress sitting right there on the battlefield, almost perfectly intact, just waiting for the British to come and get it. For Allied intelligence, this was like winning the lottery. This tank, Tiger 131, was an absolute goldmine. They shipped it all the way back to Britain, and their engineers took it apart piece by meticulous piece. They learned everything, how thick the armor was in every single spot, exactly how the gun worked, and most importantly, they found all of its weaknesses. The cat was out of the bag. The myth of the invincible Tiger was officially over. So when you look back at the story of the Tiger, it leaves us with this really fundamental question, doesn't it? What actually wins a war? Is it having the single most perfect weapon? Because the Tiger, you could argue, was a masterpiece of engineering. It was just about a perfect weapon for its day. And yet, it wasn't defeated by a better tank. It was defeated by a better system. A system of mass production, superior logistics, and just overwhelming numbers. It's such a powerful reminder that in warfare, the best weapon on paper, well, it doesn't always win the fight. The real recipe for victory is always so much more complicated than that.